Okay, we're going to take a look now at printing, because printing is obviously a very large part about image editing. Once you're done, you're going to need to print your image. There's a couple things you want to keep in mind. I've just got our flowers image open again from our content directory. And if you take a look at the rulers, if you have rulers turned on, you can see we have the inches set up, and it's going up to pretty much 21 inches, or 22 inches, actually, across horizontally, and then vertically it's about 16 inches. Well, if we want to print on a piece of paper that's 8 by 10, this is going to be a problem. We're going to need to make some edits. Because first of all, let's go up to File and Print with Preview. We can see the preview printed, or our preview we have right here. And you can see that it's very large and it doesn't look very good. And that's because we're not taking full quality of the size of this image. Because in actuality, if I take a look at the image size, we have a 1600 by 1200, which is 2 megapixels, and that's rather small. But we can still get a lot more out of it when printing. So let's do some editing here. We're going to go to Page Setup, and I want to change this to our landscape. Click OK. So now when we go back to Print with Preview, you can see we have our landscape mode. Now, one easy thing we could do is hit Scale to Fit Media. The only problem is it's not going to adjust our image correctly. It's going to size it down and cut it in half, and we're not going to get as much quality as we can get out of it. So I'm going to go to Cancel, and what we want to do is, since we know we want an 8 by 10 image, I'm going to go to Image Size, Resample Image I'm going to turn off. This way we are not editing the pixel size of the image, we are just editing the resolution. So the width we know we want to be 10. So I'm going to change that to 10, and you can see that changes our height to 7.5, which is about as close as we can get, and that ends up with our resolution at 160, which it was at 72 before. Now technically this is kind of low for printing at this size. You want to print at least 300 dpi. So if I change this to 300 dpi, it's going to change the size of our image to 5 by 4. So if I go to our Print with Preview, we can see that this is the size of our image. It's a 5 by 4 image, but that's going to look the best at its best quality. We can stretch it out a bit. Like I said, it's a 2 megapixel image, so it's really not much you can do with it as far as large print sizes. But if we wanted a 10 by 7.5, which is as close as we can get to a 10 by 8, we'll go ahead and click OK. And now we go to Print with Preview. We can see that fills up the full size of the sheet, and 160 dpi isn't horrible, but 300 is usually preferred when you're printing, because at least as a minimum, in order to get the best quality. So really this would look much better as a 5 by 4 image and not an 8 by or 10 by 7.5, almost an 8 by 10. So you have to keep in mind what size image you're working with. But the best thing to do is just go to your image size and make sure resample image is off, and that way you're not changing the size of the image, you're just changing the way the print size is going to come out. And you can go in here and change this to whatever you want. 700 would give us actual photo quality, as if we were to get a print done at like we were using film, 35mm film. 700 dpi will give us a film look, but we only get 2.2 by 1.7 inches out of that photo. So let's take a look at the Print by Preview, and you can see it's very small. It's going to be almost like a thumbnail. So digital photography, older digital photography, which we have at 2 megapixels, actually is not that high. But you can still get a decent printout, like I said before, with 160 dpi, and 300 as the minimum can look very good. We have a lot of other options within our Print with Preview here too. We have our output, but we can edit our bleed. We can set a border if we want to around the image, screen transfer, and really this is depending on your output, what sort of printer you're going to be using. We can also do other types of effects here. We can set it as a negative. We can also set our color management so that we're printing with a color profile. But this is really more specific to your hardware, and I'm not really going to get into it too much because everybody has different hardware and they're going to be printing with different things, and you really kind of got to figure that part out on your own. But if you take a look before, like we did with the color profiles, you can set your color profiles to match your printer, things like that, so you can view on the screen pretty much or as close as you can to what the printer is going to print out, unless you actually go through and calibrate that.